Alright, YouTubers, strut change in a 2014 Acura MDX, the do's and don'ts. This is the second strut. The first one I messed up a lot. So this one went a lot easier. So we'll start with what to do first and what not to do. So up top first, pop off your 3 caps with a flathead screwdriver and just loosen all 3 of those bolts, just so that they're loose, so that the strut will move around a bit, and leave those alone. Now down here, we gotta remove the brake hose from this here, which isn't a big deal. It's usually not very tight, pretty easy. Next, we're going to remove the ABS sensor wiring. It has a, it's over here, so it usually connects in over here with this bushing. So remove that, and then also up here is a little clip. Remove that so that it moves freely, and then we can get it out of the way in a second. Alright, for the first bolt that we have to get rid of is this one up here, and it's usually a real pain in the butt, but there's a good technique. So first thing you want to do is brush everything off with a sturdy brush, or what I've used is a drill with a wire brush on it. It works a lot quicker. And then you want to hit everything with a really good penetrating rust one. This one here, well, it's not cheap. It's like 30 bucks. But I didn't have it on the first one. Now maybe the left side, because it's closer to the road, inside the road, is worse. But these nuts definitely came off better. I'm not sure if it's that or not, but seems like it was well worth it. So this one here is what's going to happen is you're going to break it loose with your impact gun, 17 mil. But then it's just going to spin there. So it's not going to come off at all after that. It's just going to spin in the bushing. So then what you need to do alright, for this for the stabilizing bar or connector, you're going to break it free, like we said, first of all with your impact driver, and then it's going to want to spin in that bushing behind. So you're going to have to get a wrench on it, another 17 mil wrench on it, and then an impact driver with an Allen key that goes in the center. Saw, hold the other, you'll hold the other wrench, and you'll just back it out with the impact driver. And it'll be rusty and slow, but it will come that way. If you don't have the impact driver, well, you can certainly get away with just holding an Allen key in there, but it's going to take time. So that's definitely the quick way about it. Cool. So nut 1 complete. Nut 2 will be your tie rod end. So there it goes back there. And that's where you're going to get the dealer to do a wheel alignment after. And this is the thing you're going to pound out. So after you remove the 17 mil nut on the bottom of that, along with the cotter pin, to pop it out, you're going to take, so this nut, or this bolt will be through here. You're going to take a jack, and you're going to push pressure up on that without the bolt on it, or with the bolt just flush with the bottom of it if you like. Sorry, the nut flush with the bottom of the bolt. Either way, put a lot of pressure up on the jack by compressing the strut, and then you're going to just start whacking away on this on all sides, and it should pop loose. And yeah, you're going to whack it hard. Out it pops, and that's your next one done. So the important thing is you got to have a lot of pressure on that with your jack pushing upwards. Alright, and now backing up another step there. Sorry, I missed the, we took the brake caliper off. So take the whole caliper off. That's these 2 nuts back here. They come off fairly easily with the impact gun. They're a 19 mil. So back that off. Find somewhere to put it on there. Put on a box so that you don't stretch the brake hose. And then I jammed a wedge and a piece of wood in there to stop the calipers from coming in. That way it'll go back on your rotor pretty easy. Alright, now for the real humdinger. The bottom ball joint. So I guess I could have done it before, but I forgot. So this is the contraption you got to do if you don't have a hoist and something to jack to. So on here is your castle nut. Castle nut with a strange looking cotter pin. Looks something like this. This cotter pin goes in and then turns over. So pull that out, take your castle nut off. And then you're left with a pretty tight spot there so that you can't really pound down on it. So again, you're going to do the pounding on this here. Don't do it on the aluminum or anything. So you're going to pound this with your hammer real darn hard. Now you need to apply force down on this lower arm. So what I did was I took the jack, I placed it on the rotor, which you don't need to remove, I don't think, for this. The last on the other side I removed it, but I'm going to keep it on this one. And then you're going to force this up with the jack while holding this down, which is attached to the jack. So your opposite force, and those are going to pull each other apart, put a significant amount of force on it, and then start hammering away. And it may take a while. Just keep pounding, and then it'll pop off. So what you don't want to do is have this thing pop completely off, because this whole knuckle may pull out, although the strut should hold it, but it could pull out with all that upward force from the jack. And what you're going to do is you're going to yank your whole drive shaft out, and then you're going to have an oil change and possibly wreck your boot and everything. So you just want it to pop free, and then you want to release that pressure. So pop free, release the pressure. It won't come all the way out unless you keep on jacking, so do not do that. We got another strategy for that. So things not to do on this. Do not undo the bolt holding the strut on to the knuckle. Leave it there. That holds this whole assembly upright and stops it from falling down onto your boot and damaging it. So you can see it's just hanging there, and it's not going to damage anything because the strut is maxed out right now, and it's just holding everything. The other thing you don't need to do is knock out the drive shaft with this nut here. So on the other side I knocked it out. I don't know why, I didn't need to. So leave it in place. You should have enough flexibility once you get the lower bracket out. Cool. So the key thing, don't take out the bolt holding the knuckle to the strut. Leave it in for now. Now, as you can see, we're going to, at this point, get rid of the strap and the winch, jimmy rig, as you can call it, at its best. And we got another strap under the car now. So this strap is going from lower arm to lower arm, and it is going to hold that lower arm down and help you out in terms of getting the rest of the arm lower enough to get that bolt out of the knuckle. So jack it as hard as you can with your tie down. Have somebody push on that A-arm down to get it a little tighter, and then you should be good to go, even as a single guy. And at that point, once that's on there, you're just going to, again, put the jack right here and just support it, that's all. And then you're going to take this big old thing, maybe it's part of your jack, and you're just gonna, because this is already at this knuckles and everything is already at its lowest point, so you're just gonna apply pressure down on this with 2 hands, and it'll pop right out of there, and then you can just move this over. And now you're laughing. Now all you gotta do is remove this nut, pull the strut out, pull the knuckle out of the strut, and then remove the last the 3 nuts that you loosened earlier on the top of the strut, and you're good to go. After that, you need yourself a spring compressor. Change them out, put the new one in. Okay, a couple of things I forgot about. The ABS wire. Do not let this knuckle drop and rip that wire out. So how you do that, use this jack to support it as you pound here to get it to come off of this big old sleeve here. Lower the jack a little bit at a time, pound it down, bring it out. It's not going to come easy. As you can see, I got to clean it up in there. You won't get the new one in there. It's all rusty and a disaster. The other thing that you don't want to do is damage that lower ball joint, the rubber. And this will sure as heck land on it and damage it. So put a glove on it, and at all costs, do not hammer down on the knuckle while it's near that, so keep it off to the side. Cool, and true to the cause, it had just enough clearance on the drive shaft right in here, so this was it was just touching that as I pounded out the knuckle just below there. So yeah, you don't need to remove the bolt on the front here, and on the other side I did, and I pounded on that thing for a good hour with a 10-pound sledge, good to release. So I'm glad I don't have to remove it. Cool. So the key things. All right. So if you bought yourself a strut compression tool, you're gonna put one on the top ring, and you want to get it as far onto this bottom ring as you can by the bottom bushing of the strut. And the other one will go as far up on the top one until it hits the bushing, and then down here. You don't want them too sideways, but you also want them equally on each side of the strut, so they'll do equal torque. And you're gonna crank that down a fair bit. You're gonna find that this lower spring down here is what's gonna cause you the most trouble. One and then one down there, so those are gonna release the most. So you have to compress these 3 substantially, but don't go too much. You're just looking for this to free spin. It spins right now, but you'll tell when it's nice and loose, and you'll see a little bit of play on this upper one here, and that'll give you the okay to take that bolt out. Now, I've loosened it with an impact wrench just a little bit while the strut has tension on it, so that it's easier to loosen the nut, because this whole nut just spins freely inside the strut, so you need an impact gun to get that nut to release. Once you have once you tension the springs down, it'll come off quite nicely with an impact gun. That's about it. You're going to reuse the spring, this whole upper part, if it's still good, the dust wiper, but not this plastic bushing down there. Okay, let's get cranking. Alright, after considerable torquing, we have a compressed springs there. It's still a little hard to tell if they're compressed enough, but you can see here, it's easy to pull back the rubber on the top of the spring. This thing spins easily. So there's no tension on the system. So we're good to go. As you can see, there's a lot of tension on these things, so handle with care. They even look like they're torquing a little bit. Don't get in their way. Key tip here, boys. What the heck is that dent for? Well, I know now, but I was a donkey on the other side, and it took me forever to get the bolt in and to figure out that that little notch goes in, oh, that notch back there. You don't put it in there, your bolt ain't gonna go in, and you're not gonna get the top of the knuckle flush with this, and then you're gonna have even a harder time, not to mention that that's a safety hazard, and you're gonna have a harder time ever getting that bottom bracket down far enough, because obviously you haven't put your strut in properly. So I lucked out on the other one and blindly ran into it. On this one I understand, so don't forget that part. Alright, for the reinstall, so put the top 3 bolts in with the strut. Put them in loosely so you can move the strut around a little bit, but not so that the strut sits any lower than it has to, because you can't get the knuckle much lower. From there, you're going to put the knuckle on a jack at its lowest setting, and you're going to have to get this over that, and you don't want to pull out that. So when you jack up on the jack, it's going to want to pull everything out. So you don't want to jack up much. You want to compress the strut. You just want to put enough on it that you're going to raise this up, and it's not straight, so you're going to jack a bit and you're going to tap a bit, and this will rise up. Once it gets to about an inch below where you see it now, you're going to go around back and make sure that you've got that thing we talked about down that little slit there. And that also straightens the strut up so that it sits properly. There. Now once you've got that up to there, nice and tight, you are going to put in this bolt first, down here. So you're going to tighten the strut up to the knuckle. And that's the done deal for the strut. After that, all the pieces just go right back on. However, this is the next one you want to do. See, we got our trusty glove down there to protect our rubber bushing. So once you've tightened the strut up, you're just going to use a snipe to push down on this and move it under there. And then up she goes. Tighten on your castle nut. Bobby's your uncle.